This title's a bit much, isn't it? I know, the comments will be filled with, no, you're wrong, it's Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, I don't know. I hear you, and it's okay to have those opinions, but I just have to express how much I love this game. Because never in my life has a game grabbed me this way, and I think it's the same for a lot of people. It's been ages since the fighting game brought so many people into the fighting game community, not to mention the people who love this game who aren't even a part of the fighting game community. And I complain about this game all the time. I complain about its netcode. I gave it a B rank back when I reviewed it, purely because of the netcode, and it just had nothing as far as single player content goes. That story mode does not count as content. But you take this game and play it against another player sitting right next to you, offline, like this imaginary friend of mine. And what do you have? You have the best fighting game of all time. Brought to you by the best wallet of all time, Ridge. Ridge is the small wallet that I've been using for about a year now, and I've been carrying less stuff thanks to the way it is designed. Money on the back with a clip and cards on the inside. I no longer carry useless receipts or cards that I don't care about because this honestly carries everything that I need. No need for a big bulky wallet filling up my pants pocket. I travel lighter and I travel happier. I'll most likely never need to buy another wallet again because this one is for life. Made from military grade materials like titanium or carbon fiber, all Ridge wallets come with a lifetime guarantee. If you end up getting one of these and it turns out you don't like it because it's not your thing, you can return it for free within 45 days and you get your money back, no questions asked. But if you do want to get it, click the link down below and enter promo code Globku10 at checkout for 10% discount with free shipping. So if you've ever been curious about a Ridge wallet, there's really no risk in buying it. Thank you, Ridge, for sponsoring this video, and also I'm on Twitch, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Not this week, I'm off on vacation, but I'll be back this Saturday with a Fighters tournament, so go ahead, give me a follow, come hang out. Dragon Ball FighterZ was born out of a perfect storm. The fighting game community was hungry for a versus type game, a 3-on-3 type game. Since the last big one they had was Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Marvel was huge, but it came out back in 2011, so when they announced a sequel with Marvel Infinite, fans were definitely excited, until characters started getting cut because of licensing and the game didn't look that great, but you know what did look great? Dragon Ball FighterZ. So it immediately filled the void within the fighting game community that desperately needed filling, and who knows if it would be just as successful if Marvel didn't drop the ball so hard. Dragon Ball games had also been very mediocre up to that point. I mean, Xenoverse excluded. I think Xenoverse has a lot of features that are just not for me, but I can recognize how much that game did and is still doing nowadays. But before Xenoverse 2, it's been a long time since we had a good Dragon Ball game, or at least Dragon Ball games had been neglecting a specific portion of their fanbase for a very long time. Thinking back to the PS2, the biggest Dragon Ball game series was Budokai, and that was essentially a fighting game. After Budokai came Budokai Tenkaichi and took the series in a different direction, and it sort of never left that place. Burst Limit didn't do super well on PS3. Burst Limit tried to bring back the Budokai formula, but it didn't do super well on PlayStation 3, so Raging Blast took over once again. And from there, what we got was more and more 3D fighters where you could fly around freely with a lot of characters and RPG systems, leaving behind that fighting game community. The way I see it, Dragon Ball FighterZ is the first Dragon Ball fighting game since Burst Limit. And I don't think anyone expected a 2018 Dragon Ball game to surpass Burst Limit that much. In terms of systems, balance, everything, or rather, no one expected a Dragon Ball game to take that far of a leap until we saw who was behind it. Arc System Works. Absolutely no one saw it coming. The fighting game community was already super familiar with Arc Sys. They've made many beloved fighting games in the past, but none of those games ever broke out of their small niche communities. But we immediately knew this would be something special when we heard this developer was making a Dragon Ball game. And it was under these perfect conditions that FighterZ was born and immediately blew up. One of the best-selling fighting games of all time, and I believe this May this year, it has just matched the best-selling Dragon Ball game ever, which was Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Not Xenoverse 2, the first Xenoverse. Which, if you think about it, FighterZ had way more DLC post-launch, so it might very well be the most successful Dragon Ball game ever. It's hard to say with Dragon Ball Legends microtransactions. Xenoverse 2 also had a ton of DLC. We don't really know the numbers, but it's up there. FighterZ did so much with its launch alone that it propelled Arc System Works' name as a talented developer. The fighting game community already knew Arc Sys, but now a lot more people did. FighterZ brought back a long-forgotten community of Dragon Ball players who got left behind with Tenkaichi, Raging Blast, and Xenoverse, who were looking for more than a casual free-roaming RPG. FighterZ also welcomed players who were hungry for a new Marvel vs. Capcom, and better yet, it welcomed new players to this fighting game space, including people who never even knew what Marvel vs. Capcom was. The show's popularity, the pull that these characters have to play in a setting like this, made fighters more appealing than a lot of other fighting games on their own, especially in the context of Arc System Works games. With previous Arc Sys games, you either bought Guilty Gear or BlazBlue and got invested in those worlds as you played the games, or you just didn't care at all. But you had to play the game, you had to commit to buying the game to know if you liked getting into these characters, into this universe and all of that. And with Dragon Ball, everyone's watched it already. Everyone's already invested, so they know the universe before buying the game. That's one less obstacle to the game's success. It was also incredibly bold to make a 2D fighter for Dragon Ball. Fighting games are often niche games. You have some exceptions. Mortal Kombat 11, for instance, was one of the best-selling games in 2019 in the US. But Bandai was coming from Xenoverse, one of their best sellers. Making a 2D fighter was a big risk. And the fans before release proved how much of a risk it was by being the dumb fans that Bandai has. I remember reading some comments saying that this game was a step back for Dragon Ball games simply because it went from 3D to 2D. What a wild take. The simple fact that Xenoverse has 3D graphics already means it's better than Fighters. It's those kinds of comments. Some people still think Xenoverse looks better, which I just can't comprehend. Fighters is the best looking Dragon Ball game of all time. Easy. The game came out in 2018 and still, if there's new DLC, I look forward to seeing some of the iconic moves animated in-game. Ultra Instinct Goku was a great example. The camera work and effects on that level 3 super are insane. And since I found out how to unlock the camera in this game, I gained an even greater appreciation for it, because if you zoom in on these characters, they still look super clean. How crazy is this? And in the realm of anime games, this style of fighting game also made perfect sense for Dragon Ball, because Dragon Ball itself is hyper-focused on epic fights. I always thought of it more as a 1v1 type of game, you know, Dragon Ball isn't really a team-based thing. And along with that, Arc Sys did ignore a lot of what makes Dragon Ball to create a more balanced fighting game. For instance, they ignore transformations for the most part. The only character that can really transform is Frieza. I guess Broly can lose his shirt, and that's kind of a transformation. They ignored fusion as a mechanic, just gave you fused characters from the start. But still, a 2D fighting game makes perfect sense for Dragon Ball. For as much as I would like to see a Naruto FighterZ, for instance, and I would really like to see a Naruto FighterZ, there are so many aspects of Naruto that would have to be ignored if you just make a Naruto fighting game. I feel like a lot of Naruto is his journey to become the Hokage, the progression that he goes through, the bonds that he tries to protect, the jutsu he learns along the way. The best you can do in a Naruto fighting game to explore Konoha, for instance, is having Konoha as your lobby system, with chibi characters walking around. And this isn't to say Naruto FighterZ would never work. On the contrary, I think it would be a huge success, potentially the best-selling Naruto game ever. What I'm saying is that Dragon Ball was simply the perfect fit for this. Fighters also succeeded in achieving a trend that every single fighting game out there was trying, and now, thanks to its success, everyone's trying to emulate it again, which was introducing beginner-friendly mechanics while keeping the game competitive and complex. Fighting games are trying to welcome new players all the time, but they're scary. There are a lot of combos to learn, frame data attack, and you just don't want to jump online and get destroyed. The thing fighting game players need to understand is that not everyone is playing to be competitive. Not everyone is playing to get better, but just to have a bit of fun with their favorite character. A lot of fighting games don't really allow for this, and Fighters achieved this with a few simple mechanics. Super Dash completely ignores one of the most complex phases in fighting games, and that's neutral, taking your character from point A to point B without getting hit to start your own combo. All of this while staying in universe, since Dragon Ball characters can just fly straight at their opponents. Number 2, the Vanish, the get out of jail card. You throw something unsafe, but you can still vanish and keep your advantage. And number 3, auto combos. Fighters wasn't the first one to do auto combos, but if you're not the type of player who wants to watch a video on how to do a combo, you don't want to sit in practice mode to figure it out, you just want to sit down and play some fun Dragon Ball matches, you need stuff like this, where you can let players mash a button to start a combo. And while auto combos piss a lot of people off, and I definitely think it should be a bit more like BB Tag, where auto combos don't come out on whiff, I used auto combos for a good chunk of time in Dragon Ball FighterZ, especially in the betas. That was an easy way for me to get guaranteed damage, and since I had auto combos, I was having fun discovering other parts of the game, because I wasn't super worried about the execution on that part, and that made me play it even more, to the point of figuring out more complex combos and get into the competitive side of things, where I was encouraged to find more and learn more tech. This is the idea that all fighting games are chasing right now, and it's something that they sincerely need, and fans of fighting games constantly complain about this, often because they don't understand that if fighting games don't welcome new players, they die. You get nothing. That's the alternative to dumbing down mechanics. It's you not getting any games. And the way if FighterZ succeeded in doing this, has everyone trying to chase that same feeling. I don't remember a fighting game bringing so many players to the fighting game community. Its EVO numbers were insane for both years that the game was present, and that's while the whole Toei controversy was going on. Toei was actively hurting the competitive scene by making it sound like they were gonna ban competitive play at some point, and despite all of that, the game still thrived. And not only is it a great game to play, it's also a great spectator game. The Sonic Fox vs. Goichi saga was one of the best rivalries to follow in fighting games ever, and I honestly don't know if that's over or not. We'll find out. I think FighterZ works on so many different levels, and that's what's so genius about it. But as you could probably tell by now, this is a very personal video. I've given examples of how the game influenced the industry as a whole, but at the end of the day, saying it's the best fighting game of all time is just something very personal. And it doesn't really matter how the game achieved that. All that matters is how you personally feel about the game. And you might feel this way about a different fighting game, and that's totally valid. For me, however, I think it only really hit me during the World Tournament Spain saga. I had been playing FighterZ competitively for almost 2 years at that point, and I always enjoyed playing the game competitively, but there was something that clicked in the Spain saga. I think, first of all, I had a skill jump. I just became much better during practice for that tournament, but I just had the best of times playing casuals with other people after the tournament was done. The tournament itself was fun. I got the tournament nerves and all of that, but it was the casuals afterwards. Playing without the competitive pressure against 2 or 3 other players on rotation during the entire afternoon, just match after match after match. It was an experience like none other I've ever had with video games. I could keep going forever. Win some, lose some, it was awesome. And I think that's also the reason why I get mad at online so often, because I'm chasing that feeling again, which is simply not possible. Even with 2 frames of delay, it's just not the same game. But yeah, Dragon Ball FighterZ is the best game of all time. And Ridge is the best wallet of all time. That's not even an opinion, that's just a fact. Code Globku10 for 10% discount. And folks, it's story time. I'd love to hear your tales. What was the best fighting game experience you've had? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read it, or come by my Twitch. Let's talk about it. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye.